Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. Got another Master Duel video for you, and we have a new pack in the shop, Order of the New World. So, as we always do when a new pack comes out, we're going to go over all of the new UR cards and evaluate them. That way you are most prepared for these new decks that are coming out, how many copies you need, and how good each of these cards is going to be. So, let's not waste any more of your time and get right on into the guide. The Fallen and the Virtuous is a very, very powerful new quick play spell card that is honestly intended for the branded archetype, but you can really play it in just about anything. See, it's a quick play spell card that not only has the power to destroy a card, but it sends a extra deck monster that mentions Albaz in the process. So for the first activation, you can send Albion, the branded dragon, which will let you set another copy of the Fallen and the Virtuous, meaning that you get not just one, but two destructions out of it. Not only that, but when combined with the new Ecclesia and the Dark Dragon, setting that off the second copy, you can shuffle a card back with her graveyard effect. That means that every copy of the Fallen and the Virtuous actually represents destroying two cards and then shuffling another back over the course of multiple turns. This makes it a very uniquely powerful tool that can be utilized not just in branded, but in literally any given deck. All you need for this mini engine to work is 3 copies, 2 to 3, honestly, of the Fallen and the Virtuous, as well as the one Albion, the branded dragon, and Ecclesia, the dark dragon, in your extra deck. So it's kind of like Super Poly in that regard, right? It's a quick play spell that's a great board breaker, but you can also set it going first and use it really well, and it just requires you to commit a couple of extra deck slots in order to be useful. So yeah, definitely look to pick up a playset of this, even if you're not interested in playing branded. I promise you there are very many decks that can and will make use of this card. It will absolutely be a card that is very defining in the meta, and you're gonna see it in like just about every deck you play, especially when it first comes out. So again, definitely consider picking up a playset of this for any one of your decks. Ecclesia and the Dark Dragon is a synchro monster that is actually for the branded archetype. It's really easy to forget because branded fusion locks you into fusion summons, but the Ecclesia monsters are all tuners, making this actually very, very accessible for the branded deck. On field, it lets you summon out Fallen of Albaz or a level 4 or lower monster that mentions it from the deck or graveyard, making it an excellent mid-combo extender. Not only that, but it's got a graveyard effect that lets you shuffle it back along with another one of your level 8 fusion monsters, and then also shuffle back a card on the field, namely the opponent's field. So it's a good extender that also reloads your resources. But as we mentioned when talking about the Fallen and Virtuous, this card is actually a part of that engine as well. So, again, you're going to want to send Albion the Fallen, it's branded actually, Albion the branded dragon off the first copy of the Fallen and the Virtuous, but off the second, you'll send Ecclesia and the Dark Dragon. That way, you can make use of the graveyard effect even if you didn't actually fusion or synchro summon these monsters, right? First Fallen the Virtuous, again, is going to send Albion the Branded Dragon. That sets the second copy. Second copy of the Fallen the Virtuous sends Ecclesia and the Dark Dragon. Then you can use Ecclesia's effect to shuffle herself and Albion back, as well as any card on the field. So, for that reason, I'm going to recommend her in anything, much like the Fallen and the Virtuous, at 1 copy. But obviously when it comes to the actual on-board effect and being used as an extender, that's going to be in branded, where again, you should just be able to get away with the 1 copy. The 3 Champions of Swordsoul is a new synchro monster that, much like the new Ecclesia and the Dark Dragon, is actually meant for the branded archetype. It is a Swordsoul monster, but I think it definitely plays much better in branded because it adds a level 4 or 8 spellcaster whose attack is equal to its defense from deck to hand, which is typically going to be one of your Ecclesias, or possibly Cartesia or Quem, one of those kinds of monsters. Note that this card also does have a negate, and then it also destroys if you have an Ecclesia monster or Albaz in your graveyard. That looks really powerful, but it's also worth noting it is not a quick effect, so you cannot use it on the opponent's turn. It's only usable on your turn, making this a pretty optional but still really solid going second tool for the branded deck. I would definitely consider it for your branded extra deck if you have the room and the extra UR craft points, but I don't think it's necessary by any means. Fallen of the White Dragon is a new form of Albaz that lets you combo off in Branded without even needing to use Branded Fusion. That is just how good this card is. Being able to special summon itself by dumping one of your Fallen of Albaz extra deck monsters to the graveyard, obviously insanely good. And then being able to pull an Ecclesia monster out of the deck is also, again, obviously insanely good. This is going to be your main way of going into synchro plays with Branded moving forward, is using Fallen of White to summon an Ecclesia from your deck, and then synchro summoning for level 8. So this card is definitely going to be needed for the new Branded deck. You only really need 2 copies though, and the reason for that is because this card is always treated as Fallen of Albaz, meaning that you can only have 3 copies between this and regular Fallen of Albaz. So the vast majority of Branded decks, pretty much all of them, are playing 2 Fallen of the White Dragon and then 1 regular Fallen of Albaz. It is worth noting that some other decks in the future, like Ritual of Light and Darkness, which is a ritual archetype that will be probably at least 6 months out if I had to guess, but that actually does use 3 Fallen of the White Dragon, because it uses Fallen of the White Dragon as a starter to get to a level 8 synchro, which lets them search up their main combo line, and then they can play through the lock of Ecclesia and the Dark Dragon. So, or they don't actually summon that one, they summon a different level 8 synchro, but this also locks you into level 8 fusion and synchro monsters, so you could still play around that lock in certain decks. For that reason, if you pull a 3rd copy, I would definitely consider hanging on to it, but for a Branded deck now, I would say you only really need 2 to get started. Tri-brigade Springans Kitt is a new piece of Branded support that actually does extend into the Tri-brigade archetype as well. That's because when this card is sent to the graveyard, you can special summon from your graveyard a Tri-brigade monster, a Springans monster, or Fallen of Albaz, or a monster that mentions it. So it is actually usable for Springans as well. For the Branded deck, which is mostly what I'm going to focus on in my little review here, I'm going to only recommend optionally 1 copy of this card. I think 0 to 1 is perfectly fine. Even for a 60 card Branded deck, I think you really only need the 1. In the 60 card Branded deck, I do think that this becomes a little bit less optional, and it's kind of one of your main reasons that you would want to play Grass, is to mill this, among other cards, sure, but this is one of the main things you are trying to get into the graveyard. For the 40 card variant, again, you could use it, but you don't have to. For Tri-brigade and Springans I don't really have much experience with, so I have a hard time speaking to that. Tri-brigade, I think this becomes a little bit less optional. I would say you probably just play 1 copy pretty much every single time, because it's not exactly something you necessarily want to open, unless you have something else to link it off with. It also doesn't have the typical Tri-brigade effect of banishing stuff from your graveyard to summon a link monster. Either way, no matter what deck you use it in, it's probably going to be part of your combo line and not like just a straight up 1 card starter, so you really only need 1 copy, pretty much no matter what you put this in. Dogmatika Fleurdelis, the Thunderbolt, is a fantastic card for the Dogmatika archetype. Even though it is like kind of part of this new wave of Branded lore cards, it's not really going to be used that much, if at all, in an actual Branded deck, because Fleurdelis can special summon herself to the field, and then when she is special summoned from the hand, you can set a Dogmatika trap card from your deck. Not only that, but it can be activated that turn. So that's really nice. Obviously, your main target's going to be Dogmatika Punishment. I think there is another new Dogmatika trap card that can like special summon a monster from the graveyard, but Dogmatika Punishment, being able to send a card from your extract to the graveyard as well as destroy a monster, is obviously going to be quite good. So, in my research, I found that obviously this is going to be used mostly in an actual dedicated Dogmatika list, and I think as a very important tool for that deck, it should be used generally as a 3 of. I also did see, I think it was some OCG lists for Enneacraft were also playing this card as an optional tech. It's definitely not needed there, but again, I found some in my research that were using it, so I figured I'd mention that here. Enneacraft, of course, being another new archetype introduced in the same pack. So even if you're not playing Dogmatika, if you're playing Enneacraft, you could, again, consider teching this card. But yeah, if you're interested in setting up Dogmatika Punishment, really in just about any deck, you could consider this card. But I don't think she's very necessary in that regard, mostly just for an actual dedicated Dogmatika list. Archfiend Emperor is part of the latest wave of Archfiend support, and is rather unique, being a ritual pendulum monster. This latest wave of Archfiend support will definitely center around this ritual pendulum mechanic, but Archfiend is a very wide encompassing archetype. Of course, there are many cards, even ones like Summon Skull, that are treated as an Archfiend. So there are a number of cards you could possibly tech into this archetype. Now, I did my digging because while these cards look cool, I wanted to see if they actually put up any results, and I really couldn't find much of anything at all. I don't think I even found a single result from a tournament that was over 100 players where this card had placed well. So if you are interested in this archetype, I will kind of say, you know, craft or pull for it at your own risk, I guess, because it is not the most competitive archetype. But if you are going to end up building this Archfiend deck, then you really only just need one copy of this card in order for it to actually be useful in your deck. So it should be a fairly budget-friendly deck if you choose to go for it. Just know that for power level, I really can't give a deck like this any higher than lower rogue. Kind of honestly bordering on casual. It is a very weak deck, but a neat one nonetheless. Archfiend Matriarch is one of the new boss monsters for the Archfiend archetype. This wave of support is specifically focusing on these ritual pendulum monsters, and while they are really cool, I don't think they're very good. It's really hard for me to find any amount of results for this deck at all, and the ones I could find were from pretty much local level tournaments of like under 100 players. So I'm going to put this deck pretty firmly in lower rogue. Honestly, you could make an argument for it being even weaker and putting it in like the casual tier, but I do think this deck has at least a sliver of competitive merit. The pieces are there, I just don't think they really come together, and I don't think it's a very consistent deck. Even if you are planning on playing this new Archfiend archetype, it's really hard for me to necessarily recommend that you always play Archfiend Matriarch, because even within the very few lists I did find, I did not see this card. So I'll put it 0 to 1 for the Archfiend deck, but really I think it's probably something you could skip out on, even if you are playing the deck. And if you're looking for just competitive decks, I think you could skip out on the Archfiend deck altogether. Enneacraft-atori Mar is one of the flagship monsters for the Enneacraft archetype, which is a pendulum flip deck. Very, very unique in its playstyle, and also its presentation, that's to be sure. But Enneacraft is actually a really solid deck. It's better than you might think looking at it. It's gotten a decent amount of pretty solid finishes, even in very recent tournaments, and has seen play in both TCG and OCG. So as far as Enneacraft's what is this one called again? Atori Mar. They all have such weird names too. This is going to be a 3 of for your Enneacraft decks. It does end up being a pretty important tool and kind of like your boss monster in a lot of ways. But yeah, definitely don't sleep on Enneacraft. I'm going to put it in upper rogue because I think that's where it's going to end up landing. I wouldn't fault you if you thought it was a tier 3 deck though, because again, I think it is right on that cusp. It's really, really solid. But yeah, you're going to want 3 of this for your Enneacraft decks for sure. Deftero Enneacraft Alazonia is the, from what I can tell, probably one of the new starters for the Enneacraft archetype. I really know basically nothing about this deck, but just going off what I can read from the effects, it definitely seems like you'll want to pick up a playset of this as a starter. And in all the Enneacraft lists I found, they were in fact on 3 copies of this card. The Pend effect of letting you reveal 3 Enneacraft cards for your deck, and your opponent getting to randomly pick one to add to your hand. It doesn't say 3 different, so of course you could just pick 3 copies of the same card to ensure that you always get it, which again makes it a pretty solid starter. And again, the Enneacraft deck is also pretty solid. It's got some pretty decent tournament representation, and I would say it's probably going to be an upper rogue deck. I know some people may hear that and be like, but you just said it's good, how can it be rogue? But rogue doesn't equal bad in my opinion, especially upper rogue. Those kinds of decks are definitely capable of like hitting Master 1 or topping tournaments. They just might need a little bit more of a dedicated player behind them than certain other like tier 1 decks. But no, I think Enneacraft is very solid, and if you want to play it, I think you should definitely pick up a playset of this card. Enneacraft Release is another pretty good starter for the Enneacraft archetype, being able to place any of the Enneacraft Pendulum monsters from your deck straight into the Pendulum Zone. That does, of course, include the Deftero Enneacraft that we just talked about, which, from its Pendulum Zone, can let you add an Enneacraft card from deck to hand? Well, you reveal 3 and your opponent picks one, but you can, of course, pick 3 copies of the same card. Yeah, so as far as like this card goes, it's not much to say really about it. It's if you want to play Enneacraft, then pick up 3 of these. If you don't, then don't. And again, I think Enneacraft will be a very solid deck in Master Duel, pretty firmly in Upper Rogue. There is honestly an argument to it being like lower tier 3, and it might end up performing very well. I have to be honest, as I've said before, I'm not super familiar with Enneacraft. I haven't done a ton of research on it yet, but from what I can tell, I mean, it's got some pretty decent tournament representation, so I would expect it to have at least some impact on the Master Duel format. Okay, that is going to do it. Thank you so much for checking out this new pack crafting guide. If you want to see other guides like this, we do this every single month when the new pack comes out. Among other combo guides, deck profiles, gameplay videos, we upload Master Duel content every single day here. So, again, please consider subscribing if you want to see more content like this. And if you want to see videos like this as soon as they're uploaded, rather than when they're scheduled, also consider becoming a channel member here on YouTube. Speaking of channel members here on YouTube, we're going to move now to our outro so we can thank them as well as the Patreon subscribers. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Thank you so very much for watching all the way to the very end of the video, which by the way is one of the best ways to support the channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, take a look at the names on screen. These are folks who have been so generous as to either join as a YouTube member or subscribe over on patreon.com/Hexlex to support. There's also perks for doing so. If you would like to see YouTube videos early, as well as some exclusive videos that get uploaded to YouTube, but for one reason or another I decide not to publish, definitely go ahead and hit that join button to see content early as well as some exclusive content. If you're looking for more exclusive content, over on patreon.com, I upload exclusive videos that are not posted on YouTube just about every single day. Whether you choose to subscribe over on Patreon, join as a YouTube member, or simply continue to watch, your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so very much. But for now, this is Hexlex. I am signing out, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.